Hey, what's up, bookworms and fighting freemen? We are back one more time to talk a little Dune on the channel. And guys, when I feel like I need some help, I reach out to Dune aficionado and sci-fi powerhouse, Christopher Ruocchio. Christopher, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well, Mike. Thanks for having me. So,
Always happy to have you here. Oh, we talk about Dune anytime. Now, guys, if you guys don't know, me and Christopher both huge Dune fans. Actually, before I read his books, we were emailing back and forth about Dune. So this is how I knew that we were going to get along great. Can't think of anyone else I wanted to talk to about this new trailer because I think we're both, as you can expect, pretty excited about it. I did a quick trailer reaction, and here's the thing, guys: Warner Brothers is being really difficult with anything to do with this movie sharing. So I'm just gonna be doing still images today while we break this trailer down. I hope you guys are okay with that. I did it for free, I guess you call it, because they wouldn't let me add any ad revenue to it for my actual trailer reaction, but it's fine by me. Trailer reactions take like no actual effort to do, so it's not really a big deal for me. But this, guys, we want to kind of get into the nuts and bolts of this trailer because I think we're both quite excited about it. Just overall, before we get going, Christopher, how excited were you about this trailer after you watched it for the first time?
I was pretty thrilled, honestly. I was saying right before we got on the stream, the only thing I'm worried about with this movie is going to be so good that I won't want to watch part one anymore. Um, because like this, the really good stuff in Dune is the whole book, but like the back end of it is the really exciting stuff as we sort of get into the showdown with the Harkonnens and with the Emperor and all this stuff. So that's this movie, and I'm pretty much it's the only movie I'm looking forward to. So I'm pretty excited, and he did such a good job with the world building and getting the costumes and the feel of things down in the last movie that hopefully we can kind of hit the ground running in this one and just really just do stuff the whole time. So I'm thrilled.
Yeah, I was pretty excited. I mean, really, honestly, it was going to have to be a really dud of a trailer not to get me excited, obviously, because it's the things I've wanted to see my whole life. We got our first look at Irulan. That was exciting. I still didn't get to see Aaliyah or the Padishah Emperor, Shaddam the Fourth. We didn't get to see that yet, but that's okay. I wanted to save some surprises for the theater.
Or for trailer 2,
yeah. Or there will be trailer 2, yeah, most likely. I was actually happy that they didn't use Pink Floyd again this time because I thought that was a nice touch with the first one. And don't get me wrong, my reaction to that is well chronicled all over the internet now at this point. But I'm glad they did just kind of stick with with Hans Zimmer's music, which I think you and I reviewed the movie right like immediately after we saw it, and both of us were kind of down the soundtrack. I've kind of actually come around on the soundtrack. Have you come around on the soundtrack yet?
Yeah, more or less. It's still not my favorite soundtrack ever, right? But it's in my rotation when I listen to soundtracks writing. So I don't know what I was expecting, I guess is the thing that did it for me with the soundtrack. I was maybe expecting John Williams, maybe some part of me was. And that didn't happen. It was a lot weirder. And as time has gone on, it's been a better fit, I think. So I've certainly softened on the soundtrack over time.
I think we'll be like, we're not going to go out of our way not to spoil something, but I don't think we're going to ruin the movie for you guys. This is like a 65-year-old book, at this point. So it's going to be some stuff we'll talk about that maybe, like I would when I talked about Lord of the Rings. Like, I mean, could we not talk about that Gandalf came back? Could we not talk about that when we talked about Lord of the Rings? So I don't think we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of ruining the story for you. But I'll say that we won't talk about anything that happens after Dune. You won't hear any Dune Messiah or God Emperor spoilers here or whatever. But, we'll have to talk about some things, I think. Just to talk about what we think we're seeing on the screen here. So without further ado, I think maybe we should just go ahead and start breaking these down by key scenes. I think that's the best way to do it because there is a ton and I'm not seeing my window now. Let's see here. There you are. Live, baby. This is live. Okay, so opening up with this is why I love that they actually shot this on location instead of in a studio backlot, because you're not going to get anything that looks this incredible on a studio backlot. I don't care how impressive CGI is and stuff like that. This looks amazing, and it captures the scope of Arrakis, I think, so well. And I believe he's talking about Caladan. He's telling her about the home waters of your world, Usul, right? I mean, that's
oh, sure. Yeah, no, 100% this scene, right? And I'm totally with you on the actually shooting on location thing. There is absolutely no substitute. This is something I've been frankly whining about with regard to like the new Star Wars shows. You can all tell they're filmed in a donut. And as a consequence, they feel like the high school stage play version of Star Wars. Everything feels small and
Right.
cramped, and I don't like it. I know the volumes can be done better, right? The Batman, I think, was filmed mostly in one of those volumes, and that's great. And that's the same cinematographer that's doing the Dune movies, right? It's Greg Fraser. But I'm glad they actually were in Jordan, right? It's just better to do it that way, if you can.
Yeah,
So
I feel stupid for now for being mad that when it was Roger Deakins wasn't cast as a cinematographer, and I was like, oh, what a wasted opportunity. This guy's doing quite good. He's
he's
doing quite,
great
quite
too.
good.
I mean, Roger Deakins is like the best working right now, but but Fraser is great too. So no complaints from me.
I mean, I can't confirm or deny that they actually went to Arrakis, but I don't know. I don't know. Denny V does seem like he might be from another planet, because he actually knows how to put this stuff on the screen. So
Well, that's
it's
Quebec,
possible.
right? So
Possible.
um, you know,
So I don't know. I just thought this was really good. I know that we're going to get a lot more Zendaya. Obviously, this movie. I know that was one where I figured they wanted to make her kind of a focus in this trailer somewhat because obviously Zendaya has quite a following, and they know that that's going to get some butts in the seats. And the fact that she was in the first movie for maybe a total of about 90 seconds. I'm sure that they kind of wanted to make a point that, hey, if you guys are here for Zendaya, she is going to be in a lot of this movie. But obviously, Paul and Chani's relationship is just huge, huge in the back half of this book.
yeah,
And
I think a big part of this trailer, right, is sort of, I don't want to say an apology tour, but I think they are trying to win back anybody who might have been put off by the fact that they didn't, for example, get the Zendaya screen time they were looking for, or like all of the action beats they were looking for, right? Because like there's a lot in part one, but part one is it's a bit slower, it's a bit more ponderous, and the press tour already, Denis was like, this is more of a war movie, right? And this trailer is sort of hit that there is a lot of stuff going on. We've got the gladiator fights, we've got scenes of actual battle and things like that. So hopefully, I think what they're thinking is we got to convince people that this is the other Star Wars movie that they are looking for after the first one. Because I know there were a lot of people. I remember it was a story I read online who were about this guy who was like in the theater, and there were a couple like Zoomer girls behind him, right? And they were pissed that Zendaya was in like 5 minutes of the movie,
Mhm.
right? And they left the movie kind of angry at the end. So maybe this is sort of an apology tour for that as well. But I do think that's the general impression from this, is that this is like, it's a bigger movie, it's higher octane, and that's sort of where they're going with the whole thing, and they're emphasizing the things that are sort of different about it. Like, remember when they said that Zendaya is really the main character of the second movie,
Right.
right? And a lot of people got kind of twitchy about it because film studios pull moves like this all the time these days.
Sure.
But but the story really is, in a certain sense, about Paul, but at a distance, right? It's really like really the book is kind of Jessica's story, right? If you had to really pick one point of view character, and so I wasn't that bothered by that. So I think the trailer totally hits that note.
So this is a good comment. Most of Dune 2 was shot in Arrakis, but the Segunda scenes were shot in Ohio. If you've ever been through there, it's a rough place. So yeah, a lot of this portion of the book, there is a large portion where, let's just say, Paul is out of commission. So I imagine that's going to be the part where we're trying to get some great screen time. But she's not going to be alone. We're going to have some of those others, which we'll talk about as we move along here. This scene here of Jessica. Now, obviously, this is after a certain water of life scene. I'm guessing by her garb and the facial tattoos. I'm
And
trying
the
to figure out, what
eyes.
is this little device that she's sitting in? Is
Oh,
this
that's
gonna
a palanquin.
is it?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
I
I was
mean,
like, what in the world is that?
well,
Yeah.
a palanquin is only like the chair with the canopy that people carry on their shoulders, right? But this one's set to go on a worm. So, no,
Oh,
totally.
okay. I thought it was just like fighting the desert,
Yeah, well, it'll
like
keep the
the
sand out a
elements of the
bit,
desert.
right?
Yeah,
But
or a windstorm.
but the Reverend Mothers, they don't have to do the actual worm riding and get carted around by people who do the real work, right? So this is clearly a palanquin. And this like gets into too, like the costumes are a lot more visually interesting in this trailer. I don't know if that's because just we're not like hanging out with the Atreides military the whole movie like we did the last one, and I kind of still don't like the bulky gray armor. But all the like Reverend Mother costumes in this are cool. What little we see of like the Imperial Court looks cool. Even the Harkonnens get a little bit of an upgrade, right? I like there's later. I don't know if you have this still or not, but Raban is in this really cool outfit that's
I do.
like a fancy suit. Yeah. So the costumes, which were already great, like feel another couple points for me.
Yeah, we said
Oh,
after the first one, when it won all those Oscars, that one thing that Warner Brothers likes more than box office is really, really great reviews and merchandise, and it won a lot of Oscars. So I was pretty sure they're going to be like, "Hey, here's some extra budget." So I expect a lot of things to be bigger, and I don't think I've seen some comments where people are saying they think that some of the things look cheap. I didn't see anything that looked cheap in this. I think all the costumes look better. It doesn't look like a Marvel movie where there's CGI diarrhea everywhere. It looks like a good mix of practical with with visual enhancement, like we saw a lot with the first one. But yeah, I expect the budget to be a little nicer this time. Not that the first movie looked cheap by any regard, but I know that there's little nitpicks we had, like Eric Keane doesn't look very populated and things like that. I feel like that's you see some of the scenes in this with the extras, and it seems like they're gonna get what they need, I think, to make this feel a little more epic. And here's our first look at the Princess Irulan. I don't know. I saw that first screen cap. I was like, I don't know. I guess I just always imagined her like dressed more extravagantly, but I mean, I guess why would she be? And I do like that she's talking in the voice recorder here. This makes me wonder: is this kind of his hat tip to the epigraphs at the beginning of the Dune chapters, even though that happens after the fact,
oh,
a
totally.
million years
Like you can
later?
imagine she'd be, recording stuff on the Dictatel, right? Earlier, right? So, I think this is a nice way of sort of bringing that in. I'm with you on like we could have had a couple more, degrees of opulence with the costuming. She's
Mhm.
got the like sort of like cap later, right?
Yeah,
Which is kind of cool. But a lot of the disagreements I have with this movie aesthetically are that it kind of is stripped down. Right? We talked about this with the first movie and how like all of the sets were really kind of Spartan. Like really, the library at Castle Caladan has one chair in the middle of the room. That seems a little strange. Like I would have liked things to feel a little more lived in. And this is one of the points that I'll give to the Lynch version over this one is that the sets for like the Palace at Arakeen and Castle Caladan felt a little bit more like someone actually lived in them
lived in.
than
Yeah,
than some of these do. And of course, like they just moved, right? Okay, I get that. But all the same, if I had to pick a knit, it would be this, and it's reflected in some of the costuming. I think my favorite scene just for like world feeling in the first movie was when the guild shows up at the beginning, just because all of that costuming and the set work was really interesting with like the close up of the documents and stuff for the change and all that. I really like those little details, and that scene was really rich in them. So I do like what we're getting here, like the uh, again with the fact that they're sort of working in the epigraphs and the fact that it's visually distinct from Arrakis and from Kiti Prime and Caladan and the work that's going in there. But uh, I yeah, no, I'm reasonably happy with it. I would have maybe gone a little fancier if it were me, but this is only one outfit, right? And if she's just hanging out talking to
sure.
herself, maybe wouldn't wear the fancy hat for that. So
Sure. And someone asking, is Irulan a little young here? I actually think that Florence Pugh might be older than Irulan is in the book. I mean, Paul's 15. I don't think she's much older in the book, is she?
yeah, I don't think so. So it's been about a decade since I've read any of the Dune books because I promised myself I would not read them while I'm writing The Sun Eater
Right.
anymore. I
Right.
don't want to get any closer to Dune than I already am. But I think that's right. Um, but someone in the comments is noting that Villeneuve loves brutalism. Yeah, I don't. So I have a very strong sort of visual disagreement with him on this point. It kind of works for Arrakis, like especially for like the biological testing station and things like this, right? Because it's got to weather the storm. But it was never what I pictured. It was a very different sort of take. But I'm not saying it doesn't work. It just would have been my first choice.
Right. Right. I'm with you. All right. Well, cool. It's good to finally get to see what she was going to look like here. We see the Harkonnens. Do you say Harkonnens or Harkonnens? Because I've always said Harkonnen, and this movie's finally got me starting to say Harkonnen.
I say Harkonnen. So I've had both versions of the audiobook, the 93 George Guidall version, which has Harkonnen, but then I had the new one with Simon Vance and the extended cast that says
They say Harkonnen.
this is Harkonnen. My understanding is Harkonnen is the preferred pronunciation.
That's like
So
smog. I've said smog my whole life, and then Desolation of Smaug came out, and I was like, I can't change it. Sorry, I've been saying smog since I was a kid, so I've been saying
well, you're
Harkonnen.
baked in. It is Smaug though. That one I can tell you definitively
It's Smaug.
is the case. So Tolkien was pointed on issues of pronunciation and things, right? It's not Celeborn, it's Celeborn. The C's never make S sounds.
Mm.
But yeah, no. Yeah, Harkonnen.
That stuff doesn't bother me as long as it's consistent. Don't be an S sound on one name and then a C sound on the other name.
That's the important thing is just keep it even.
Yeah, we're gonna have an author on here, not get into writing notes, you guys. Okay, look, with this, we see the Harkonnens burning all the bodies of all the Atreides as they're kind of clearing out the palace, and the new owners are moving in here. Obviously, great symbolism. I mean, just showing Alito burning, like basically they're convinced that Paul died out there in the desert, and it's always that threat of, well, what if he did live. And I think that the Harkonnens follow the same rules I do. If you don't see a body, they ain't dead. So I think that's always going to kind of be lingering there. But it seems like in the trailer, Irulan's the first one who's like, what if he is alive? And I think that's a very, very nice feature to put in this trailer.
Yeah. No, totally. I liked too. Right before this shot, there was like a little thing in the back of the Harkonnen trooper's helmet that was spinning. Again, like the costumes are just really cool. I really like the Harkonnen armor. That was my sort of favorite of the three we saw. The starter card didn't do it for me. I saw someone else in the chat was saying they weren't their favorite rendition of the starter card. I tend to agree.
I didn't see him as a bunch of weird blood draining cult people either, but well.
Yeah, but like their helmets with like the big glass bubble, I didn't like, but the Harkonnens I think look really cool, and I definitely of the three, that's more sort of my favorite look. The Fremen are perfect. The Fremen look basically exactly like
Right.
I imagined, but
Right.
of the three houses at least.
Okay, here's Obi-Wan. Wait a second. That's Gurney. That's Gurney Halleck. So a lot of people that obviously didn't read the book didn't know that Gurney, if he lived or not. He's been roughing it a little bit. I think that shows. And why I bring that up is because when they did that Obi-Wan trailer, it had the exact same scene where he looks down from the binoculars, and it just looked exactly the same to me, except a little more polished.
Yeah, just a bit, not in a donut.
So. Yeah, anytime you've got a Josh Brolin, I think your movie's already going to be better. And I'm looking forward to seeing like this version of Gurney. It's something I've been very, very excited to see. And yeah, I can't wait to see how he brings this to life because he's a little worse for wear, I think, than the last time that you saw him on screen.
Yeah. No, and I am just glad to see more of him generally because I feel like, well, Thufir really got the shortest end of the stick, but I feel like Gurney also got a little bit of rough treatment in the first one. There's not a lot of screen time for him. He really only has like 3 scenes. And he doesn't really feature heavily in any but like one of them. So, having him back, of course, is is a good thing. So, happy to see him back. I wonder how much of the sort of smuggler stuff they're going to handle, if any, or if he's just going to show up at the spice crawler scene, right? I don't know how they'll manage that.
Yeah, and same with Thufir. We don't see Thufir in this, so I don't know if they're going to do that because they didn't do the stuff with Thufir and Jessica in the last movie. So I wonder if Thufir's going to have as big a part as he does in the back half of this book.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll just first see him in a Harkonnen cell somewhere, right?
I would love to see him. Apparently, he actually did record something with the battle set. I would love to see it. I don't even care if it's like a post-credits thing. Give it to me. Give it to me.
Yeah, I'm still angling for the director's cuts, right? Because it's very clear there are, finished scenes. Because we've seen like photographs from at least a dozen other scenes from the last one that didn't get made. So I would really love for them to go back and do that. But he's been pretty clear he doesn't want to do that. I just hope someone can change his mind. So
yeah, Denny's kind of the director. He's like, my final cut is director's cut. But I'm hoping, maybe after like a decade goes by, they say, hey, you've got like 12 hours of film here. If you want to do like an extended cut, we'll allow it. Especially, like I said, if it goes and has the same success at the Academy Awards again as this one did, So I don't know. Even if those are just deleted scenes, I'd love to see them. Some fan will put those together. I'm sure some fans are already going to make like the ultimate movie cut, of this or the book cut. And they'll probably put it in the same order as the book or something like that. I can see that. Rich, I think that we're going to see plenty of Paul's sight. I think we got more in the first movie than I expected to get. It's very clear from a scene we're coming up on here pretty soon that we're going to get to the water of life. So I think we're going to see plenty of things getting a little batshit. I think that he's not going to stray away from that at all. I think he showed in the first movie he's not going to hold your hand. He's going to kind of try to let you figure some things out on your own. So I would be stunned if we don't get a lot more of he who can be many places at once. Correct?
Yeah, no, I would imagine so. I do wish in the last movie they'd done a little bit more, because the name Muad'Dib never gets mentioned, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
there's a little criticism of the movie in the chat, and I want to sort of echo a small amount of agreement with it. I think this version is really excellent, but in no small part because they cut it down so much. I think there's a lot of stuff that I might have done differently. Like I wish the first movie had ended with James's funeral instead of what feels like in the middle of a
same.
scene.
Yeah,
And we maybe could have had enough of the vision to get the Muad'Dib stuff set up, because the mouse is there. It feels like they were angling in that direction, but didn't stick the landing, which is one thing that concerns me with starting this new movie. If they're just hiding the time skip between films, which would be the smart thing to do structurally, then we don't have James's funeral. We don't have, unless we do flashbacks, which we could certainly do. They could certainly work those in even to Paul's visions, right?
oh
Um,
yeah. One of my biggest criticisms of the first movie was not seeing Paul cry after he kills James. That's what earns a lot of the respect that he would give his water, like that. That was a big deal to the Fremen. So
yeah,
it's
that's
not
where
perfect,
it should have ended, and with him becoming Muad'Dib, and that would also serve as proof that his visions are real. They're not just spice trips, right?
right?
And the movie doesn't quite stick that for me. So, someone was saying thinks Denis missing the point, and to the extent that I feel like that point was missed, I agree. If we're talking instead about the heroes aren't heroes point, I know some people feel the movie is not getting that either. I don't know that it's fair to make that decision just yet, but we'll see.
Yeah. So we didn't get to see Aaliyah. We didn't get to see the Emperor. We do get to see Fade Routha here. So look, I think that this guy is going to be a humongous star, Austin Butler. I mean, when I saw Elvis, I was like, the way that dude sunk himself into that role was impressive. And I've read about him like studying knife fighting techniques and stuff for this role. This guy's a serious actor. He dives all into a role. So I've said from the minute that this casting was announced, I think he's gonna be just awesome in this role. What do you think about this look of him being completely like all the Harkonnen seem to be completely bald? What do you like in him? How are you feeling about this
Okay,
aesthetic?
so that is not the part of the Harkonnen design that I like. I like the armor. I think the armor is really cool. But for me, like pivoting from Fade for a minute, my Baron is Ian McNeice from the Sci-Fi Channel
Yeah,
version.
he was very hammy. I liked him.
He feels like the Baron is very hammy in the
Yeah.
books. Like he is a mustache twirling Shakespearean supervillain,
Hmm.
right? Because the book's written in this omnipresent style, right? He literally is turning to the audience and explaining his plans exactly like a Malvolio or a Iago, right? Like it's just so over the top. And the Ian McNeice version is there, but the Ian McNeice version is also in like all this very bright velvet and silk and is covered in jewelry, and the understated nature of a lot of the design in the Denis version, I think, kind of misses the sort of consumptive opulence of the Harkonnens, and the red hair too, right? So like, I would have preferred a more sort of to the book uh, interpretation of what they look like. But and I would have preferred the Baron not fly either. But I'm never going to win that battle.
Well,
Um,
maybe their plan is there is a big reveal about Lady Jessica that they didn't do in the first book. Maybe they're doing that to cover up the whole let's just say red herring. Maybe they're doing that.
yeah, nice. Maybe, yeah. I mean, that's possible. So I'm not a big fan of the bald look. I will say it's very striking. It's very visually interesting. So to people who have not read the books, I don't think they're going to be. I don't think those people are bothered by this sort of thing at all.
No.
I think it's very distinctive. I think it's one of those things that in 30 years you'll show like a random normie a screen cap and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, Dune was pretty cool,"
Yeah.
right? So I think it's very visually effective. I just don't think it's very faithful. Um,
Sure.
it's sort of this movie is random decision to make all the Bene Gesserit bald, like in the '84 version, which I still despise. Like that's the worst costuming choice in the old movie.
It was.
It followed by Sting's codpiece. Like those are the things. But I do think the kind of Spartanness of this Baron kind of misses the point of who the Baron is. The Baron is quite a uh, he's a creature of sort of well, of consumption, right? That's why he's fat. Frank gets a lot of flack for making him fat because why do you hate fat people? But it is a symbolic choice, right?
No, when they
Uh,
cast Stellan Skarsgård, I was like, are they making the choice of the Baron not being fat? Yeah, I really thought that because why you get a super skinny guy? But hey, it worked out. But one thing I've learned about Hollywood recently, guys, is they hate redheads. So here we are, more
Man,
of
that
that.
is true. I
They
can't
hate
figure
redheads.
out like what the deal is there.
I'm married to a redhead guy, so I need some rights for some redheads here. But yeah, I think this guy's going to be great. We'll talk more about the black and white stuff and the decision of that and what we think it might be here in a minute because there are more scenes of that. Let's move along to Lady Finneran here. So, interesting. Are we going to one? Are we going to see the Count in this movie? And two, does it seem like they're expanding her role just a touch in this movie? What are you thinking here with Lady Finneran?
I think they are, and I hate to say this, Mike. I think that especially if they get to make the third movie,
Did
I
they
think
flip
they're
it?
going to be pulling for Paul of Dune a little bit.
Okay.
Because of course Brian and Kevin are involved.
If
I
they're gonna do the
share
Aaliyah
your
the knife stuff,
antipathy.
sure, yeah.
What's that? Yeah.
If they're gonna do the Aaliyah the knife stuff, yeah, I'll get that's one of the few things that Brian did that I wasn't actually, like, rage flipping about, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I think there's some stuff there that they're gonna work into a third movie, and actually maybe show some of the jihad, right? Which would be, a good. I've talked before in the past. The fact that Frank skips the entire jihad is a mistake. I think on Frank's part, he should have written, something like Paul of Dune. So I think they're gonna pull some plot points from this because, of course, it's in that book that they resolve the sort of Fenring plot that's otherwise just sort of brushed away.
Right.
And we know too that the Sisterhood show is going to be based on one of the Brian Kevin novels, right? So I would be very surprised if they didn't pull from that to try and beef up Messiah, because of course Messiah is like this long, right? So if they get there, I think that this is sort of set up for that. I honestly I don't know. We might be in the timeline. I wouldn't be surprised where they announce shortly before this comes out, or like immediately after that part three has already been greenlit. It's a distinct
If
possibility.
this has a big opening weekend, I think you'll get a green light really, really quick. However, I think Denny V has said that if he does it, it's gonna be a while, which is fine because the characters will age up a little bit, because some time does pass between them and there. But I know that he does want to do Messiah. I don't think he wants to do Children. I think he wants to do it just as a three actually just Paul's structure, just Paul's story.
Yeah,
He
but
doesn't
I
want to get
also think he wants to go make Rendezvous with Rama and
right,
whatever else he's
right. So I
got on
think they'll
his.
want to make something between this because we can risk getting burned out, doing something like this. So I'm fine with him taking his time with that. But we were both worried. Oh God, what if we only get the first half and then it's awesome, and then we never get the second half? That's even more insulting than never getting this adapted correctly.
Yeah,
But now at least if I'm getting my favorite book of all time, the whole thing adapted, I'm mostly cool
yeah.
with it.
If nothing else, Dune itself is square, right? And that's the important thing. As much as I want to see, a certain actor talk to an animatronic worm, I don't know that we're gonna get to book four, right?
Right.
So,
Oh yeah. No.
um, you know,
And she looks great, by the way. I could see Leia Sadu actually like pulling off some of her antics. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, no, I think
Ugly.
she's a great pick. I've only ever seen her in Spectre. I never
Yeah.
watched No Time to Die, so it's the only thing I've seen her in, but she was good in that. So, no, I think this is good casting, and I do think we're going to see Hazimir, right? There are a couple people on the cast list they've not announced roles for. I'm sure there's one guy whose like name is Paul something, I think, who I think probably is Count Fenrir in
I think
disguise.
this is a question for you, Chris. Or should I read Paul of Dune for some more of that jihad story?
Um, I think
I can't
Paul
be objective.
Dune is maybe the best of the Kevin Bryan books, but I don't know that you have to read it. So nah, I don't know. You don't have to. I generally am of the opinion that you should really just read the first four Frank novels, and that's kind of it. Um,
The
Personally.
Sisterhood of Dune show, apparently like their director and the lead actress like walked off the project. So I don't know what's going on with that, but that was the last I heard about it. So as far as I know, it's still happening, but
Yeah, no, I don't think it's canceled, but it's been pretty fraught. Haven't they they've like changed showrunners like four or five times too, right?
yeah.
And they had that cannibal guy. He was advising at one point, and then he's not there anymore. So I don't know, but we'll see, I guess. Hopefully, I think it would be cool, to have more Dune stuff, even if it's not, it's not all Frank stuff. I'm kind of a Frank purist, but I think it would have been interesting to see what they could do. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I'm not gonna like cry that we didn't get it. Right. I
Right.
would
With
much
that stuff,
rather.
it's like, look, I usually with adaptation, I'm like, don't change it. If you're adapting Brian Herbert stuff, I'm probably gonna be like, yeah, change it. Change it if you're like a competent writer and make it better, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's an opportunity in adaptation to sort of elevate the source material. It's not often taken, because most of the people doing said adaptations are inferior to the original artist. But sometimes you get the right mix of people and
Think so.
stuff. So
As long as they get somebody who like what I just saw with Star Trek Picard season 3 is like you get someone who actually loves this material. I think it probably could be really good with them writing their own ideas. I think it could be really, really good. Hey, remember when they thought that there wasn't going to be the water of life in this movie? Yeah,
did people
hilarious.
think they weren't going to do that?
People were thinking they thought it was going to be too trippy, like they did with Stephen King's It. They
Oh,
completely like took out a lot of the trippy stuff. And I'm not talking about like that one. I'm talking about like a lot of the like hallucination scenes and stuff in it. So people thought that they were going to do the same with this because they thought it might just lose casuals because it's going to be so trippy. I think it's going to be amazing. I can't wait to see what he puts here because we're going to see, I'm sure, what our characters are seeing.
yeah, no, I mean, they did so well with the visions in the last one that I never thought for a minute that they weren't going to do it. So I'm kind of surprised to hear that people were water of life skeptics. It's like a very important part of the movie. We kind of like have to do it. I wouldn't be surprised if we like don't open here in some way, right? Or like it's pretty
Mhm.
close to the beginning.
I think if you're like I said, you're going to have Paul and Jessica both kind of being out of commission for a little bit. You don't want them to kind of disappear from your movie. That would be kind of a poor decision when you got two very very popular actors like that.
Yeah, I almost wonder one thing they could do. I don't think they're going to do it, but one thing they could do is start with the bit later in the book where Chani is called in and Paul is unconscious because he's done this, and they could use it as like a frame narrative for like the first 2/3 of the movie and then jump back. That's probably too complicated. But that is one way you could structure it. But I didn't think we were going to skip this because this is when this is really when Paul becomes the well, it's really when Jessica becomes Reverend Mother, but it really starts Paul sort of biochemically down the road to becoming what he is. So this is like way too important to see. It's also where he really like gets with Chani, right? So it's kind of a big thing. Um, kind of hard to skip it.
Yeah, it would kind of Jessica's arc in this series. It would kind of be very very bad, and I think that's just because people haven't seen Aaliyah yet. I think that's just something that's so shocking. They want it to be on screen. They don't want to try to explain in the trailer why there's a character that's doing the things that Aaliyah is doing in here. But I'm shocked we haven't heard of casting. They're keeping that so tight under wraps because I did think with Aaliyah, there's going to be a character they probably age up a little bit. I mean, I would imagine. I just don't know how they're going to pull it off. I mean, you can obviously do overdubbing with the voice and things like that. That's not a big deal. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
someone was suggesting maybe she's just like a CGI like mocap character because it's at this point you could totally do that. But
It's going
they
to be
can't
an
they
AI.
can't cut her though. Like
It's going
I
to be an
know
AI. They're going to AI Aaliyah.
it's
An
a
AI.
possibility. But like they can't cut her. If they're planning on doing Messiah, it's impossible. Right?
Right.
That would be like cutting Anakin Skywalker from the prequel trilogy. You
Or
actually
cutting
can't.
Duncan. Why would you even have Duncan in here? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no. And why would you cast Jason Momoa if you weren't planning on using him?
Answer a couple of these questions here. Look, I'm with you here. I don't want anyone besides Denny doing the movies. We were talking about Sisterhood of Dune on HBO. If they want to make like a expanded kind of universe on HBO Max, obviously Denny's got a full plate. He's not going to be doing that. So I think that's what we were both speaking about there about elevating the source material. Because we're talking about Brian Herbert's books, not Frank Herbert's books. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
of
kind
course.
of both kind of iffy on Chapter House and Heretics, but of the first four, I was like, I don't know really. I want anyone kind of touching, or elevating, as they put it, that source material. I'm not a fan of Brian Herbert books, but there are some people who obviously somebody's buying them because
Yeah,
there's like
they
35
aren't
of them out.
like totally awful, but they are not good Dune necessarily. I think like the prequel, like the Butlerian Jihad prequel books are pretty readable. Like they're fun. They're what the kids would call mid. But like any of the stuff that touches on the main characters, particularly the sequel books, I think Hunters and Sandworms are not worth anyone's time.
Awful, awful.
Um,
Do you think they'll do the spice orgy?
I think they might tone that down.
Yeah.
If they're going to tone any aspect of this down,
Or it's happening in the background kind of
it'll
thing?
be that. Yeah, we might get some like writhing human forms, and it'll be kind of like a weird, sort of trippy kind of crossfade like tracking shot, but like nothing more than that. I don't
You can
think we're
tell I
gonna.
got a writer on the show here, writing human forms. I like that.
They're not going for the R rating, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm with you, Zed. If they cut Aaliyah, it's gonna be like, why would you do that? I don't know about her being a puppet or CG, but I mean, like you said, I don't know. Everything's a kind of Andy Serkis. Andy Serkis is gonna play Aaliyah
he's
now.
perfect.
Confirmed. Okay. With me,
He
with
can
it's
play
like
anybody.
if you gotta cut characters, you better not be making any new ones. That's always my thing with adaptation. Like you got to cut characters because there's so many that's cool. I don't think that they could do that with Aaliyah. But if you got to cut characters for time, don't be giving me your newly created character that wasn't in the book. That's something that's something that makes me flip tables. Hey, maybe they're
Yeah.
gonna gender flip. Maybe Aaliyah's gonna be a dude now.
No. No, because you can't do that if you're planning on doing children.
Right.
It's just not going to work. And no, they can't. They're not going to cut Aaliyah. You're right. She has a giant role to play at the end of Dune. Right, the first book, and she's very important in 2 and 3.
Is this official that the girl the actress from Evil Dead Rise is playing Aaliyah? Because I haven't heard any official announcement yet, but I could have missed it.
Yeah, no, I had not heard anything about Aaliyah's casting. I got to be honest, I haven't been like actively looking to
Right.
see. Right, I kind of just sort of figured it was handled.
I obsessed with the lead up to the first movie. This time I was like, I'm just gonna sit back, chill, and just be patient and wait for this. I got my kid interested in it now, so I'm just gonna kind of enjoy this ride before it's over.
Yeah, yeah, no, I obviously I saw the castings for Irulan and Fade Ralph and the Emperor, but in a certain sense, like, I mean, they're gonna cast some random kid, right? And like, they're like, I don't, it doesn't matter, right? There's not like a super famous like 12-year-old actress out there. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's the perfect choice, right? Like that would be kind of strange. On the
Well,
other
I
hand,
remember when Game of Thrones was still on, and they had a little lady Mormont. I thought it was Bella Ramsey. Actually, I actually thought when I saw her, I was like, that's perfect for Aaliyah. Now I've seen her actually act on Last of Us, and I'm like, nah.
I didn't understand the Leanna Mormont hype at the time, honestly.
Eh,
But that's a whole other thing.
right, we could go down a whole. If they're going to cut anyone, it's going to be Baby Leto. I don't know. How far
That's
you
a
can
that's a
go?
possibility. I
Yeah.
mean, it's yeah. I mean, if they're gonna cut anything, it'll be that. Chris Pratt will be Aaliyah. Nice.
Okay, so you were talking about this. Is this Harkonnen armor or is this like Chom? Is this Space Guild now? They're like their crew. I thought these were like the Space Guild.
That's a good question.
Chom.
I don't think I think that's like the Harkonnen armor, like the from the first shot of part one, right? They've got this like.
Yeah, that's when Thufir was talking about like how much it cost them to come there. I just assumed that was someone from Chom, because they don't really like show their faces and stuff. Hey, you think we'll see a guild navigator? You think they're just going to skip over that?
I think we will.
Really?
At least a little bit. We'll at least see the like sort of demi navigators from the end of book one. Because if you remember, right, we see navigators at the end of Dune 1, but Frank has not yet retconned them into fish people. In book one, it's just a couple normal guys, and
Right.
like one of their lenses falls out and reveals that they've got the spice thing. And Paul's like, "Oh, you're both navigators, aren't you?" And they're like, "Yes." And then in book two, they're like, "Actually, here's Edric, and he's a fish person." So I don't know how they're going to handle that. So we might not get a fish person, but on the other hand, like it's kind of a famous thing about Dune at this point that there are orange fish people,
Right.
and we should totally see one. And I would be surprised, especially if this is Denis' like last Dune movie, right? If he doesn't get to do Messiah, that he doesn't introduce one. Like we could even conceivably see Edric, right? Like Edric could just be sort of brought forward into the Emperor's retinue, and I don't think that would be a huge threat to continuity, and it would help set up a third movie if they're getting one.
Worst case scenario, we see him on a hologram talking to the emperor or something like that. I could see
Yeah, yeah, at the very least, I think. But yeah, to get back to the screenshot, this is one of the suits of armor I think is really cool. I like this one because it's so like 1990s, like generic sci-fi
Oh
Lego.
yeah, you see this on
Uh,
covers all the time. Sure.
it's like I'm pretty sure I had this Lego guy, right? And that's great. That's a very specific kind of nostalgia that I don't think they were going for, but it gets me where I live.
Well,
So
I'm thinking you're probably right because I can't think of any instance where Paul would be fighting someone from Chome. I can't.
yeah, unless they like put some on like a spice harvester or something. I suspect this is the sequence where they're raiding the harvester,
Okay.
and Gurney shows up, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if this isn't pretty early in the film too. So uh, but but I guess we'll see. But I think that's what it is. I think this is like leading, spice raids against the Harkonnens. Now they've taken back over.
I like how everything is spice colored. Great color palette. I love it.
Yeah, no, that's Greek again.
So you're just talking about that one scene. I think that's what this scene is, where you see them getting like fired upon. I think this is where we do hook back up with Gurney and those fighters. I think that's what this scene is going to be here. I can't imagine any other one that
Yeah,
this is.
yeah. I
This
mean, they
scene,
might do it twice, right? There might be a couple spice raids, but I imagine this is all part of that sequence.
so glad they got the eyes right. Because it's like both Dune adaptations, the eyes just look ridiculous. I think that they finally got the look of the eyes just right.
Right. It's not
Blue on
too
blue.
distracting. It's but it's not like literally glowing or something silly. It's understated, but it's still pretty noticeable.
But yeah,
So
this costuming is like straight out of like all the art I saw when I was younger. It's exactly like I would imagined. It's just perfect. I
yeah,
love
no,
it.
all the Fremen
Looks like
stuff
something
just looks
someone would
great.
actually wear in the desert.
Yeah. Um, no. I think the Fremen costumes are perfect. Basically, I have no complaints there. So
So this is clearly the a certain water of life scene. At least I'm believing that's what it is.
yeah, I think that's right.
And they did hint that she was, or Paul like knew she was pregnant in the first movies. That's why I don't think that there's zero chance
Oh
he's
yeah,
cut the
totally,
Leah guy. There's
totally.
zero chance.
There's zero chance. Um, yeah, no, they're not gonna make that big. Denis is not gonna make that big a change.
Right, right.
He's
Like
not just
he'll
gonna.
cut out something like the dinner sequence, which we were both upset about. But they're not going to cut out him. He's not going to cut out a major plot point like that,
No,
especially
no.
since we get that gangster scene with Aaliyah and the Baron. Eventually, we got to see that. We've got to. At first, I didn't look. I think Javier Bardem is a great actor. I just didn't see him as Stilgar. But this trailer, I love kind of. He
He's
was always kind of skeptical of Paul, and it's
yeah.
like this moment where he's like, "Okay, look, he might be able to learn our culture, he might be able to adapt to our ways, whatever. But is he like some great prophesized Kwisatz Haderach? Nah, nah." But then you see the look on his face later on. He's like, "Shit, maybe he is." So
Yeah, I think he is far and away my favorite part of this trailer. um, I had some folks over on my Discord talking about how the Fremen's accents are inconsistent. I kind of just wish they all were as cool as Javier Bardem is,
right.
because he's great. He's great in this, and I'm looking forward to him sticking around. So that'll be cool, especially if they do take 5 years, 6 years to do the third movie, which I think would be a good idea.
Right.
It'll be cool to see Stilgar hang around and get older and go through his whole arc. But he's pretty great in this, and it really sells the just the Fremenness of it all, I guess.
Reminisce. All right, I
Um,
like it.
so he no, he's great. And I like to the sort of little exchange between them. It's sort of how like the Duncan like you put on some muscle joke was the one joke in the movie last
Right.
time. I think this like nothing fancy bit is the one joke in this movie.
Right, like the first trailer had the smile gurney. I am smiling. This looks like the one. Like, okay, we got to try to grab those MCU humor people. I don't expect there to be a ton of one-liners, or even it to be delivered the same way as it is in this trailer. But you can tell that's good marketing, I think.
Yeah, no, I feel like I said at the beginning, I think this trailer is Absolutely for it's for moviegoers. It's not for you and me, right? It still works for us, but like the intended audience here is not people who love Frank Herbert. It's people who liked Dune Part One, and especially I think people who liked Dune Part One. I think the pitch here is this is bigger, right? This is louder. This is more of everything in it, and I think broadly it's working. I scrolled through the comments and everybody seems pretty excited about it. So
Yeah,
um,
with us readers, you could just show like just the spice blowing off of the sand, and it just says Dune Part Two, and we're excited, we're there, you know. So
yeah,
yeah,
no,
I try to
that
do something, and we'll talk about here obviously with this scene because I took a lot of heat when I did the first trailer reaction, and I was upset that they showed the worm.
oh
I didn't
yeah,
want
oh
to
you were
show
one
that,
of those.
and I took a lot of heat for that. With this, I was like, are they giving away a little too much here? You know, because this is a huge, huge moment in the book. And I'm like, okay, again, you got to try to get those. Look, the casuals want to see the sandworms. They want to see them. And I felt like at the end of part one, I hated that they kind of ruined this, showing a film actually riding a sandworm. I hated they showed that. But again, if it gets more butts in the seats, then obviously that means we get more Dune. And I'm excited about that. So I don't know. You
Yeah,
think it's
so
going too much?
no, I don't really. This is part of that conversation I had on my Discord server. One of my readers was in this camp, and I was like, "Look, like those of us who've already read the book have a very different attitude towards the material than people who don't really know what's going to happen."
Sure.
Right. So we did see the one worm rider at the end of the last movie. So we know that that's a thing, right? The idea that you can ride the worms has already been explained to the audience, right? The fact that Paul succeeds in doing it is, I don't think like that big of a surprise. This is the sort of thing I think you can put in the trailer. Is it a huge important scene? Absolutely. I think if your goal with the trailer is to get people in seats, that's exactly the kind of scene that you and marketing want in the trailer. Like I understand that like maybe trailers are showing too much these days, but this was not like a 5 minute Zack Snyder film trailer, right? you know, this was pretty tight. It was a lot of stuff. Like someone in the same conversation was like, they showed that Fade and Paul are fighting, and I'm like, well, they show that they fight, but like the context is not there. You know the context because you've read the book, so you watch the trailer, and you're like, oh, they put the end of the movie in the trailer. That's so ridiculous. But like, my dad doesn't know that, right?
Right.
So I think it's fine.
And again, the cinematography is incredible. I mean, look at this.
Yeah, no,
It's so epic.
I think it's great. You got the ridge line on the dune collapsing too, which is it's very cool. I think the whole scene looks awesome.
Yeah,
No, I'm not bothered by it. I was surprised at like the grappling hook nature of the maker hooks. That was
right.
not exactly how I imagined it, but you know, um, the only way to get exactly the movie you imagine is to direct it yourself, which is not something I'm in a hurry to do.
Right.
So
And I mean, it just looks amazing. Go back, guys, and watch the worm riding scene in Dune '84, and you'll be like, "Wow, how far we have come in 40
yeah.
years of filmmaking." Because this is now, I do like they didn't show the size of the sandworm, guys. It's going to completely melt your brain. It's ridiculous. So yeah,
Yeah, but although you do get that one aerial shot of it like stretched out way ahead of Paul, that's pretty cool. Because it is not small. The one thing I think Denis really has a good handle on with these movies is the scale. Objectively, I think those Atreides freighters are smaller than any of the like big capital ships in Star Wars, but boy, do they feel massive in a way that nothing nothing in Star Wars ever does. So
hey, did you see the shot of Paul with the hood on? Looks similar to Leto on the cover of God Emperor. Is that intentional? It wouldn't shock me. I mean, Denny's a huge fan of the series. It wouldn't shock me if he wants to do some nods to some art that probably has left a lasting impression in his brain all these years. It wouldn't surprise me at all. It's
yeah,
one of the things
no,
you
but I
kind of look
had
at
not
the symbolism
noticed.
of. Yeah, I used it on a thumbnail recently, and I kind of thought the same thing. But yeah, guy seems very, very influenced by things that he grew up reading. Like if you read like a certain version, you were talking about like '90s sci-fi covers and stuff. That stuff embeds in your brain when you're younger, and you can't unsee certain things. I mean, I'm the type of reader, I like to make up my own ideas. But if you do see like a really key piece of art, you're like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking of. And some of that stuff, it's impossible to unsee once you have
Yeah,
seen.
and no one is not influenced by what they like grew up with, right? That's just sort of the thing. So you hear these stories about Denis wandering around with a paperback of the book shoved in his back pocket
Right.
on set, right? That's exactly what you want to hear.
Absolutely.
The fact that this is a novelty in Hollywood is deeply frustrating to me as a writer.
Absolutely. I mean, you heard that
Um,
with it that they had like and with when they were making Fellowship of the Ring that there were just copies of the books laying all over the set and stuff like that. But that uh basically, guys, if you're a sports fan, you might get this where they do like the chalkboard on an NFL game where they can actually write on the screen to show where the players going to run. That they did something like that with Denny talking about the box scene, the Gomer Jabbar scene in the first movie, and he
oh
was
yeah,
breaking it down like film. And something he kept saying in that is every time I got stuck, I kept saying, "What would Frank do?" And I kept going back to the book, and I was like, "Praise Jesus, this finally happened." That we got the right guy for this job. And here, right here, this is Stilgar seeing the prices of the Dune Folio Society right now. He's looking on the Folio Society website
yeah.
and he's seen the cost and he's like, "Oh my God." But yeah, that's right here, guys. It's really, really awesome. But yeah, I mean, this just says everything about what that moment's going to be. So I still think, while I think maybe, hey, I didn't like them giving away so much in the trailer, there's still a lot more we're not seeing, I think. And you're going to see why his expression is this, because he's not just doing this because Freeman rides sandworms all the time. It's not anything new to him. Paul's doing something incredibly unique here, I think. And can't wait to see it come to life. It's going to be great.
Yeah, and so there's Lucas here saying, right, maybe it seems like the trailer shows too much because we know the story, right, which is what I was getting at. But there's still so I'm one of those people, like I don't care about spoilers at all, right? Like, to illustrate my point, I have been reading the new Zelda game leaks like all week, right? Like every pirated screenshot I can find. Like,
That's
I
a
just want to know.
generational thing. My generation hates it. Your generation loves it. Yeah.
I don't know that that's true, right? Because like at the same time, you go online and like every Zelda YouTube channel is like, we will not be discussing leaks because that is something that snitches do and that is bad behavior. Like,
Well, I think also Nintendo's like nuking websites for talking about it.
that is totally the case. That is totally the case.
Nintendo
Right?
lawyers are right there with Disney lawyers. You guys, watch out.
But I think this is an increasingly prevalent attitude that like people just don't want to know these things. I just don't get it. Like I don't know. Like my brain is different. I go and I read stories. I play games, watch movies for the execution. Like I am not looking to be surprised. I don't care about being surprised. I can only be surprised once. So if your movie hangs together on surprise, it's not a very good movie because I can only watch it once. Good movies can be watched indefinitely. And so we've seen a little bit of this worm riding scene. We have not seen the worm riding scene. What I have seen looks amazing, and I am very excited to see, all 10 minutes of it. Like, my I think favorite sequence in the last movie was the spice harvester scene. I have gone back and just watched that scene, right? Like probably 30 times. I've seen the movie like 5 times. But I've watched that sequence because it's basically perfect.
Showed us that in the IMAX preview, and I was like, "Have no fear, guys. It's just in the right hands." Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so the fact that we're seeing bits of this or like a little bit of the knife fight, like, boy, I hope that knife fight is amazing. I want to see the rest of it. This does not bother me. So,
Yeah, I think what Lucas is saying here is kind of right. Us who know the story are kind of like, "Oh, you're giving too much away." But people who, that's why I ask a lot in the trailer, you people that have not read the books, what do you think? Are you
yeah,
excited about this? Are you like that? And all of them are like, "I don't care that they showed that scene. I don't feel like it ruined anything for me. It just got me more hype." So yeah, you're probably right. You're really close to something like that. You're worried. You're hypersensitive. That's going to ruin something for people who don't know the story. But it
right.
probably
Because I,
doesn't.
I I mean, case in point, Mike, you and I are going through this trailer a frame at a time and being like, is this the thing from the moment with the thing? Right. Like anyone who hasn't read the book can't do that and won't either. Right.
Sure.
So, we're just very different beasts here.
I
Um,
never get enough of the ornithopters because mind's eye right here. Boom.
oh no,
This is it. And this looks very
perfect.
apocalypse now. I love it. So
Oh yeah,
getting more of that.
totally. I wonder if this is the like Harkonnen attack on the Sieges. So maybe we will. Maybe we will get Leto 2, right? Leto 2.1,
Yeah.
right? It could happen. It could happen. I think it would be pretty dramatic if they did do that because this is something that they both skipped over.
Hey, what's up,
Uh,
Brian?
what's up,
Good to see you,
Brian?
man. Hey, yeah, Brian, he'll defend the Brian Herbert books, guys. So if you guys want the other side of that coin, check out Brian's reviews of he talks plenty of Brian Herbert's books. So, but he's way more cultured than I am. But yeah, I think I've rewatched it about 5 times now, at
Yeah,
least. And honestly,
something
I thought
about around that.
it'd be much more than that, honestly. But yeah, when I was looking at these stills, I was trying to think about when could this be, and I think you're right. I think that is going to be that part that we're thinking of. Yes.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because then too, right? Especially if Ali is in it, right? Like she has a part to play in that sequence as well, and there's a lot of like the action in Dune, and this is another of my very short list of frustrations with Frank happens off stage. And with the film, we have an opportunity to show some of that stuff, and I think it would be good if we did. So
I'm with you. Yeah, I know that a lot of stuff when Lord of the Rings was coming out, I was like, can it really be a spoiler when it's this old? But I hate ruining that stuff for people, So that's why I'll be talking about The Hobbit and I'll do it spoiler free. It's like that's like pop culture at this point. Everyone knows what happens in The
well, I
Hobbit.
won't go out of my way to ruin it for somebody, but I sort of lost all patience with this position when I got yelled out of a fan group in college, like on Facebook, because I said that King Arthur dies at the Battle of Camelot. I'm like, guys, that story is so old. I have news for you too. Jesus comes back from the dead at the end. Like you might have missed the memo on that one. Like
Right.
these stories are like, it's 60 years by no means is 2000, but I get very frustrated when the story is old and people are like, you can't just do that. And like, actually, I can say whatever I want, broadly speaking, and within certain parameters, and telling you how a story ends is well within those parameters. So
Sure. Yeah, and if you are reading the epigraphs in Dune, hey, spoiler, you kind of know what's going to happen. Frank spoils the story for you. Hell, he tells you who the traitor is in the beginning of the book, and then as the reader, you just forget about it, and you kind of still get wrapped up in it. So yeah, he was a good enough writer that he could do stuff like that.
yeah, it changes what you're paying attention to, right? It instead of being a mystery about who the traitor is, right? It's sort of a tragedy watching Dr. Yui betray the people that he does genuinely care about. It changes the character and the nature of the story.
Yeah, and then he gets screwed over and doesn't get what he made the deal for.
Correct. And it makes it even more tragic, right? Because you have spent time with him knowing what he's about and what he's up to. And that's just it's sad. It changes
All
the
right,
character of the
we got to
story.
talk some Twilight Zone cinematography here. I have no idea. I mean, are they doing like all the Geedy Prime scenes in black and white? I'm trying to figure out like maybe this is Lady Finring, like her recounting the events of what happened on Geedy Prime. Because I think this could be the cold open for the movie. You have the cold open of the fighting pits on Geedy Prime, and then like the title screen, everything goes to color or something to make Arrakis pop more. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out what this is, but if anyone can pull off this kind of aesthetic choice, it's probably Denny B.
Yeah, I imagine this must be some sort of flashback, right? Because it would be visually inconsistent with the first movie to just have Geedy Prime be in black and white when one considers that there was a Geedy Prime scene in in the first movie. And it was not in black and white. I actually did not notice it was in black and white until like until you pointed out and I watched the trailer again, because everything is so black and white on Geedy Prime anyway. I was like, is Mike wrong, or was it just already black and white? Let me go look. But I'm not that keen on it either, Hans. If it's some sort of flashback, that's fine, right? Or like maybe it's like the opening of the movie. It's kind of like Casino Royale or something,
Yeah,
right?
like there's a point where it pops into color.
Yeah. I remember reading in the art book that their plan was for that Lieutenant Lanville that had a couple lines in the first movie to be captured in the scene where the Sardaukar take Thufir, and he gets to be the gladiator in the Colosseum scene. That was the plan. I don't know if it's going to end up still being that actor who's playing the guy that Fade kills. I think that would still be really cool, even though it's like, he has like two lines, but that was the plan. So, but like we'll see how it goes. I think it's, we're talking about it, so it's at least an interesting visual decision. So we'll see what happens. I do think the Colosseum looks cool. I really like the sort of crenellations on the back wall there, and the sort of banding, and how how sort of smooth and like insect shell everything is. Like the design is cool, even if it's not very very Harkonnen, book Harkonnen looking. So
Oh, you go like 300 and make just the blood. The blood will be the only thing in color. Go full on Zack Snyder 300 on you. What do
I
you think
mean,
of that?
it is a good look. So
It'll definitely get your attention. Yeah, I'm just happy this is here. We both speculated after we were reviewing the first movie that the second movie would open with this scene. It made the most sense because they're going to want to introduce Fade immediately since he wasn't in the first movie at all. You think they're going to? How do I phrase this? You think they're going to keep the Baron's tendencies towards Fade kind of off camera in this?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they totally downplayed to the point of erasure though that aspect of the Baron
Right.
in the last book, right? Because again, this is Frank gets criticized roundly for the Baron in all sorts of for all sorts of stereotyping. And I think this is by those criticisms come from people who don't understand symbolism in literature and that
Sure, sure.
they're dumb. But I can also understand the desire to sort of downplay that in what you're trying to make a big epic, PG-13 Hollywood science fiction thing. You don't want to lean on that too hard, right?
Yeah. Eyes are just creepy, man. He looks like I don't know, he looks like Skeletor or something. It's creepy.
Yeah, the no eyebrows thing is always unsettling. So
Pink Floyd The Wall. Yeah. um Fade and Lady Finneran scenes in color. One of them is, but I've got another one here where you see that she is here. That's why I was saying maybe it's her recounting the events of what's going on here to certain parties that are interested because her scene's in black and white too. But then there is another scene with her later where they are in color with her and Fade. So
yeah, because I imagine we won't spend that much time on with this scene, right? Because we have stuff to do, right? So if this is some sort of flashback, if she's talking to guys Helen Mahayam, right, and explaining all this stuff, it's a good way to set her up and her plot up while also showing the fighting, because that'll also establish Fade's sort of physical threat, which is of course important. So I imagine that you're right. I imagine this is some kind of flashback.
or that's a possibility. Maybe this is the way they keep a PG-13 rating by not showing so much blood.
If that's a reason, it's not going to be the primary reason. I think that would be a I think that's kind of a cheap reason maybe to make such a distinct visual change. Like you just put one scene in your movie in black and white to bring the rating down. Like I don't think so.
Yeah, lots of people saying infrared light in the arena, and some are saying, hey,
Oh,
maybe
that's
their
true too.
sun is not the same as our sun. May have to have like different lighting value. Is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, to that I'll only say, right, we did see Gidi Prime in the last movie, and they did not do the black and white thing
Right.
there, right?
Right.
But they did do fun stuff with like the sound design and the cone of silence and all of this stuff. So there's no reason this couldn't be like an actual like diegetic bit of technology, right? It's like part of the story. It's a deliberate choice for something, and it's something that characters are aware of, even maybe. Who knows? But
Okay. So there's the armor you were talking about.
yeah, I think it looks cool.
Tunic. Yeah, looks really cool.
Yeah, I like the chain. I like the like sort of supervillain shoulder pads. I think it looks cool.
I mean,
So.
it's a real shame what happened to Drax after he left the Guardians, but I'm very excited to see how things are going for him.
Yeah, yeah. I hope Ruben has a little bit more to do. I was telling you, I think we were texting.
Yeah.
I really hope that Gurney gets to kill him. I want that fight. So
You don't want the peasants to brutally murder him?
no, I would like it to matter narratively. When we talked about the last movie, what I said I really wanted to have happen was I wanted I almost said Drax. I wanted Ruban to lead the assault
Kill
on the
Duncan?
testing station, and I wanted him to kill Duncan, and I wanted Gurney to avenge Duncan in the second movie. And I got made fun of in the comments for saying this because it's like Christopher, it's not a Marvel movie, you peasant rube.
No, I was thinking like that scene of in Rogue One where Darth Vader is just slaughtering everyone. That's kind of I would have been down with that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. Right. And it would like Dune very much is a theater piece, right? By which I mean like an Elizabethan like stage play. It's a very, very Shakespearean, right? The characters all turn to the audience and make these asides, every single one of them. They have these internal monologues and thoughts. And so it is not inappropriate to lean into the smaller nature of the main cast and have the main characters do something that matters. And I thought that putting Ruban in that position would help make him a bigger deal, because as it is, he's in the movie for like 3 minutes. He like screams a couple of times and he doesn't really do anything. He decapitates some prisoners. And so I think that his threat as a villain could have been beefed up a little bit, and I think that having him kill Duncan would have been one way to do that. No, they didn't do that, which of course, was them being faithful to the book. So I'm not really complaining about it. But I would really like Gurney to kill him. I want Dave Bautista and Josh Brolin to fight. I think it will be cool. Uh, and if only because this time, right, Drax, killed Thanos' family,
Yeah,
and I think
right.
that I think people will find this amusing. I think the normies will find this amusing.
Finger to throat means death. All right.
Yeah. So
We're
yeah, no,
going
I
to
I
we're
and
going
I
to
want a
Guardians 3
cool
this
sword fight.
weekend. So we
So
watched
shoot me.
Guardians 1 again last night. So.
No, cool.
So see now that one was in color, and this looks like this is the same scene, and it kind of looks so. I think it might be something about the light, because it looks like it's the black and white, but we see the glaring sun back here.
Yeah, well, I mean, Arrakis does have a white sun, and as a few people in the chat keep mentioning, and in the spirit of exercising this strain from the conversation, yeah, it's totally like that's totally a thing they're doing, right? They are leaning in the artificial qualities of different planets' lighting. That's why I was so happy we had the Seleucid Secundus scene in the first movie, right? It gave some visual contrast, got some water back in the film after a large stretch of white gray, beige sand, right? It was some much needed variety. So, yeah, no, I think this could totally be it. So,
Someone's bringing up the action. Look, I would say with the trailer is that yeah, it's a lot more action. I think there's a lot more focus on action. Obviously, that stuff does happen in the books. Frank's just like Tolkien in that he doesn't dwell on it. That stuff's going on. I'm going to focus on what's happening with this character over here, not the big battle that's going on just outside. So obviously, I mean, they did that with the first movie. You got to see a lot more of the actual assault on Arrakeen. So I think that yeah, you'll see all those things. They're going to amp that stuff up because again, they know they got to make casuals happy, and they want to see stuff explode every 6 seconds. As the Marvel generation has come to expect, right?
yeah, and Nazim, I know the fight was not in the book, right? I've read the book probably 60 times, and that's not an exaggeration. I'm well aware, but a film is not a book, and you cannot do the same things when you adapt to a different medium, right? You like for example, you could try to do all of the internal monologuing like they did in the Lynch version via voiceover, but boy, is that awkward. So there are things you can do with text that you cannot do with film, and vice versa, and that I think necessitates some changes, right? And you can make changes to material to accommodate adaptation without destroying the character or spirit of the original text.
Mm.
And I think that is fine. I think that Hollywood's tendency to completely trample over source material has made us as book readers very concerned about any change, but some change is fine moving between mediums. I would never expect internal monologuing in a film, right? We've tried that with the Lynch version. We tried that with the theatrical cut of Blade Runner. It's not great, so I'm totally okay with some changes, but the backstory for Halleck. I'm sorry. No, the backstory for Halleck is no, I think that's a Brian thing actually. I think his Gertie's scar being from Raban is a Brian thing, but I do think they're going to put in some Brian Kevin things. I think that's going to happen. So
Man, you trying to
yeah,
ruin my breakfast? Jesus. All
I'm
right.
sorry, Mike. It's going to
Hey,
happen, man. They're doing a
closer
whole
look
show.
at. I want to look at some more of the costuming here. I'm believing this is probably the from and Reverend Mother.
Yeah, no, totally.
You
And
see the
I think
flames?
it's awesome. I really love the Bene Gesserit, and this is Bene Gesserit adjacent, right? Because they've still got the like big square miter over the veil, right, or under
Right.
the veil. I think these are probably my favorite costumes that aren't the guilds stuff. This stuff just looks really cool. I like. There's a couple veils Jessica has not in this scene. I'm sure this is maybe the old Reverend Mother.
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
and
When
got some lesser Sayadina
we're about to
maybe
have that
behind her.
transference. Let's put it that way. Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks awesome. This looks just awesome. Okay, so I want to know what's up with. I mean, I think it looks neat and all, but what's up with the Irulan's like Joan of Arc thing here? Is she just like a big fan, or what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is more of that court dress. Maybe, she's not at
It almost like
home.
signifying that she's not allowed to speak or something. That's what it almost looks like to me.
Yeah, well, maybe. I think it looks cool though. You know, I really like all these like sort of veils they've got going on. I the costume designer cannot get enough Oscars, frankly.
Mm.
You know, this is absolutely uh, the strong suit, I think, for the art direction in this. I wish the sets would keep up, or at least more of the sets would keep up. There's some good ones,
No, I'm
but
with you.
uh,
This
it's so cool.
maybe with the resolution at the end of this book, maybe this is the certain forced.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, like
Maybe that's what it is because she doesn't look too thrilled, does she?
no, that this could be from pretty late.
If I mean, if they're kind of going, a few pages past what happens at the end of the first book, maybe that's what they're doing. Oh, and here's that thing I was saying where Fade and Lady Finring are actually in color here. So, yeah, she's doing her job well. Like you, I think they are going to kind of pull some for some more because I do feel like they're making her role like because a lot of people like I talk about Lady Finring like what are you talking about like you can blink and you can kind of miss it in that first book. I think you can probably just be like it's not anything that really stuck in my memory, but I think that it does look like they're giving her a much bigger role here.
Yeah, and I think if they're leaning into this as opposed to steering away from it, then they want to do the whole plot here, which leads me to suspect that we will get this Paul of Dune stuff mixed in with the Messiah stuff when they do the third movie, if they do the third movie.
Mhm.
Um, that would be my guess. So, I'm kind of hoping we're in the timeline where we get like a 5-year break because as you know, I hate content. I do not believe that we need a Dune movie every 3 months. I
Right.
would much rather have one every 5 years and have the quality stay high and be excited
Well,
about it, and then
also, it's
do.
like I said, like breaking this movie up, it was like it sucked, but it was good because there is a little bit of a time jump in the book, and I think there's going to be an even bigger jump between the end of this and a potential Doom Messiah movie. There's a big time jump. A lot of stuff happens between Dune and Doom Messiah, and I think letting the character, hey, maybe Timothy Chalamet will finally age and he'll actually look his age.
I was just about to say the last thing I want is to see the preacher look like a 15-year-old.
Yeah, yeah, he's like the
Like
Leo. It took Leonardo DiCaprio some time to get away from that boyish look and actually look like a grown man, I think. So maybe that's what that could be the advantage of taking some time between if there is a Doom Messiah movie.
yeah,
Are you surprised they're going with Dune Part 2?
yeah.
I
I kind of wish it had been Prophet of Dune.
I thought it was going to be Dune Prophet. Yeah.
Yeah, and just gone with it. That would have been better because my fear is now that for symmetry's sake, it'll just be Dune Part 3.
Right. Not
And
Messiah.
and while that does reflect on a certain level, Frank's original vision of Messiah is like Part 4 of Volume 4 of Dune. No, thank you. I prefer the more interesting titles, please.
Yeah, it's weird because I'm always like, hey, if you're going to read Doom Messiah, make sure you read Messiah and Children together because I feel like that's kind of one story. And if you look at just Messiah as the sequel to Dune, you're probably going to end up being disappointed. However, what Denny talked about actually kind of makes sense. If he just wants to do the kind of the 3-act structure of Paul, I don't think it's a bad plan, really.
Yeah, I mean, you can conceivably end Paul's story in Messiah, right? It
Yeah,
it does feel like an ending. It is not the ending, right? But it is an ending, and so like you could make that work. I think that when I'm with you when I talk about Dune, right? I tend not to think of Messiah as part 4 of book 1. I tend to think of it as part 0 of book 3. Like
right.
it's really in my mind it's pulled towards children and away from Dune 1. And so yeah, I would much rather if they're going to do Messiah at all that they do children as well. You could totally stop there though. That's fine. God Emperor is my favorite book, but I don't know that you could possibly film it in a way that would be appealing to mass market audiences.
And
I
Zendaya disagrees with what you just said.
That's okay.
She's
Um,
appalled a little bit. So someone brought up earlier that she's I saw the comment about her wearing the blue headband later,
oh yeah.
and that's significant for something. I can't find it. I wanted to wait till I got to this one because I thought I actually captured a picture of her because I was like, wow, she's got like a blue headband on. What's that about? But it actually
I
sounds
I believe
symbolic.
she wears one at one point in the book. That is a detail that does not stick very strongly with me,
Right, right.
but I do remember a blue headband.
And just a closer look at Post Water of Life, Jessica here. So, what's that? What's that writing say? Come on, Dune scholar.
Well, they only just made the alphabet for the movie, right? So it was what's his name, Peterson, the guy who did
You do the Dothraki
he
language.
did Dothraki, he did
Yeah.
Valyrian, he did the Belter stuff for Expanse. He's living the dream right now, making up all these conlangs.
Oh.
But he did alphabet
I wonder if
for.
that guy speaks Klingon. I'll bet he speaks Klingon.
He probably does.
No doubt.
Of course, Chekhovsa is a real language, right? It's a Caucasian language. I
No,
don't
I
know.
did not know that.
I
I
don't
did
know
not
how
know.
much of it we actually know. I think it's mostly lost, but it's a real language. But yeah, he. Oh, it is. It's the Najoni scarf, perhaps the blue headband.
Okay.
Yeah. See, I got the Dick to tell earlier, but Najoni scarf is gone somewhere in my memory. As I say, it's been a while.
I mean, we just gonna keep saying it. The costuming looks awesome.
It's just so cool, right? I that is especially like the Bene Gesserit habits and like the guild stuff, just awesome, awesome, awesome.
All right, so shave her head, and you're totally on board, right?
No, no.
And then I just say this scene is just fucking epic. I mean, it's just you get to the last like 10 seconds of the trailer, man. Arm hair is standing up because this is just stuff I've always envisioned here.
Yeah,
Just,
no. This
just
was
amazing.
great. Long live the
Along with
fighters.
the fighters, yeah.
Yeah.
You got the cover of Kingdoms of Death, with the holding up
Yeah.
and
Although
this.
although the cover of Kingdom's Death is actually a nod to the Magician Tarot card. But
I was
he's
thinking John Carter of Mars, but
but
all right.
oh yeah, I noticed that too.
This made that knife chip and shatter. Oh my god, that's like one of my favorite lines in the book, and this just looks awesome.
It does look cool. Someone on my Discord server was pointing out that this uh, looks like the scene on Tyrell's porch in Blade Runner, with
Oh,
the way that it's lit against the sort of stark geometry. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was some deliberate connective tissue there, right? The same guy was noting, I think, that part one came out when the same month the last duel came out, and this one comes out the same month as Napoleon. So there's a little Ridley Scott sort of connection there as well. I kind of like all of the little mimetic references to the other Dunes, right? Except for Lynch. There's no connection to the Lynch movie in the Denis stuff that I can find. But like the use of Pink Floyd and Charlotte Rampling being in it are Jodorowsky references, right? There's a couple of these like Ridley Scott nods, and Ridley almost made Dune before Lynch did, but then his brother died and the project got scrapped. And then there like even Christopher Walken being casted is a little bit of a nod, I think, to the Fat Boy Slim song, which has the Dune lyrics in it. I find this stuff amusing personally, but I wonder if this is
degrees
a
of
bit of
Kevin Bacon shit here. All right,
what's that? Oh
it's like
yeah, sure.
degrees of Kevin Bacon stuff here. So.
Yeah, no, I obviously the Jodorowsky stuff was on purpose, right?
I think that the
But
Jamis and Paul fight was pretty good. I think this is going to obviously have to be better. It's going to
yeah,
have to
it
top
needs
that
to be
somehow. I
cooler.
mean, I'm not thinking we're going to get like full on like Wesley and Inigo and Princess Bride type fight here or something like that. You really can't do a sword fight as much as you can do a knife fight. But I just think back to 1984. I will kill him. I mean, this is going to finally erase that scene from my memory. And thank God there are no weirding modules. You hear me? There are no weirding modules, Denny, and we're gonna get like the real fight here. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, no, I think this is gonna be cool. And like you said, it sounds like Butler's been putting in the work, which is
Yeah,
good. No, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be great.
yeah, just what a beautiful shot, man. Oh, so nice. And again, yeah, just epic, epic stuff, man. Straight from the mind's eye. I love it.
Yeah, no, it's perfect.
That could be wallpaper right there, man. That's just you can put the title right here, and boom, that could be your poster. It's so good.
Yeah, I'm sure that's like the same silhouette they cribbed for the poster. It's pretty, it like flipped around maybe,
Right.
or it could be from the same shot. But no, it looks great. And this is, there's a lot more people, there's a lot more moving parts, right? It does feel bigger than the last one.
Mhm.
Like I said at the top, like my principal fear with this movie is that I will have zero interest in watching part one again.
Right.
Like this one, I think is going to just be more impressive in basically every way, and
Yeah.
I'm completely here for that. Like I said, I think this is about the only movie I'm looking forward to anymore. So,
I'm pretty sure that because my oldest he watched the first one, said he wanted to know why it was so important to me, and he watched it. He really liked it, but I'm thinking that like he said he wants to go see this with me at the IMAX because he's never been to an IMAX theater, and I think the third act of this is probably gonna be the most lit he's been since Rogue One. I think it's probably gonna be the point where he's just like this. This is what I went. I think he kind of went into the first movie like, oh, it's like another Star Wars, you know. So I think he realize you have to kind of slow down and think a little bit. Where I think that this one's going to give him a little more of what he's looking for. I think so. I'm excited to share that with him, and obviously, I'm excited to see these things here in beginning of November. November.
it's the third, yeah.
So, you how many times are you gonna go see it?
See part two.
Yeah.
At least twice in theaters, I'm sure.
Well, I think last time, since it was still in the middle, virus is showing me name, and it was same day. I mean, I wasn't gonna not see it on IMAX because I did get invited to that preview to see it on the IMAX screen. I was just
Oh,
like
sure.
blown away with what we saw there was the actual sandcrawler scene. And I think with this, it's only going to be it's exclusive to theaters. That's going to help a lot, I think. But yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait. I'll probably see it probably once with my kid, once with my wife. I'm sure. Although she was this morning being like, no Jason Momoa in this one. So yeah, there you go.
Unless there's a post credit scene.
Post credit scene. Post credit scene. Yeah. So
we'll go full cringe. But could happen. Probably not. But
I mean, if Disney's not in charge of this, and they're not, although not that Warner Brothers is some big trustworthy thing, although I think it's more legendary with Warner Brothers is just picking up the bill, right?
Yeah, sure.
Kind of how
It could happen. It could happen. And like, what's going on with Warner Brothers anyway, right? They're Discovery now too, and like they're changing the name. Like, who knows? Who knows what's going on anymore? And the writers are not working anyway because they've joined the Butlerian Jihad. So,
I got one question for you before we go. Are you counting down the days of the Ray Academy movie?
No, I would sooner die. I would sooner crawl through a sewage tunnel full of broken glass. No, I will not. I will not go see any more Star Wars films. I don't care if they put Grand Admiral Thrawn in it. I'm not going to do it. So no. But no, just no.
I think here that yeah, you didn't see huge action in this one, but there will be a trailer too. There will be a final trailer, and I think it might show a little bit more actiony. This is clearly the story trailer, and next one will be kind of actiony. At least that's my guess. Personally, I wish they would show nothing else, no more trailers, because I mean the reaction I'm seeing on the socials, which I know is a very very small sample size overall. People think that Twitter is the end all be all, but it's not. But tons of I didn't hear anybody say anything bad about the trailer. So
yeah, no, me neither. And Carson, don't apologize for the Star Wars question. I was just I was giving everyone the answer I thought they expected me to give.
Guys, I love Star Wars, love it. It's probably the galaxy I spent the most time in my life. It really, really is. But with me, it's always going to come out a little bit like, hey, you know who else liked Dune? George Lucas really liked Dune. I mean, like he really liked Dune. So
he liked Dune more than me. And I apparently really like Dune. So
yeah, you two have people with daggers on the covers of your book. How dare you?
Yes.
Like I just read a book that had magic in it and 3 friends, and that meant it ripped off Wheel of Time
and Harry Potter.
I was like, wow, I had no idea that Wheel of Time had the exclusive rights to magic. Wow, how about that? So
yeah,
anyway,
but yeah, no, I am very excited. I think this looks great. Obviously, if I know some people have problems with the direction of the film and are not super happy with it, but your mileage may vary. I'm not saying this is like the perfect Dune adaptation, but it is the most perfect one I think that we've gotten.
Or we'll ever get.
Yeah, or we'll ever get, certainly at this scale, probably in our lifetimes. So,
yeah, it's okay to let yourselves enjoy it, guys. Is what I'm saying. It's okay to let yourselves enjoy it. Look, I had been stumping for this to get made for years. I felt like it was not a remake, because I was like, no, what it's going to be is a faithful adaptation of the book. People still want to call it a remake of Dune 84. And I'm like, no, it's just a faithful adaptation of the book. If anything, it's a remake of the sci-fi series because that was actually faithful to the book,
Yeah.
But the thing that I was always worried about was like it doesn't have a ton of action and it needs a huge budget. That was always like you're not going to get butts in the seats for a movie like this. But this looks like it's found a way to kind of do the unfilmable, because we always thought this was unfilmable. Obviously, after 84, with the freaking hearing the inner thoughts, which was just like, again, can you believe that there were 12 to 15 people in a boardroom making that decision and being like, yeah, that should work on screen.
It'll be great. Yeah. No, well, this is what I was talking about, right? Like what, in creating any work of art, right? You have to think about who your audience is, right? And who your audience is for a, $200 million blockbuster film is not the same as who your audience is if you're writing a, 600-page sci-fi novel in 1963. And you do need, to as a business person make decisions to try and make the thing that you are trying to sell to people saleable. And now some of those decisions are bad, right? Because business people are not artists and they do things like destroy the material. But sometimes you need to think like, how do I make this book work as a film? And I do think that like leaning into the war aspect of particularly the back half of Dune, leaning into the action aspect of that, the spectacle of it, and stepping away from a lot of the internal politicking and back and forth things, um, is a call. Right now, you should not destroy the source material in making these changes, but you do need to think about like, well, do we turn the dials up on these aspects of Dune and these dials down? Maybe do we turn this dial off? Right? I think that I think those are all reasonable things. So I think that they are making some savvy decisions, not just about how they take the film in general, but how they market that film, right? With regard to, like I say, dialing up the action and presenting it that way, talking about it as a war movie, right? As an action movie, at CinemaCon and other places. So I think they're making the right moves to set this up to be a success. And I do think broadly people were pretty jazzed about the first one. Certainly book readers more or less were. But I think normies were pretty happy with it, and I think that I think they're in a good place for this one to actually outperform the first one, which is almost unheard of these days. So,
Right. No, well said. Well
you
said
know,
all the way around. Hey, Mike, watch, guys. I'm going to link Christopher's channel down below if you want the announcement that he made minutes before this about his Kickstarter. If you missed it, guys, there's news. Go to his
well,
channel.
I could just say it, but Mike, I'm actually glad you gave me the opportunity to segue into
Of
this.
course.
But I did get 500 more copies. We will be launching them on the same Kickstarter on Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern. I will be live streaming on my channel as we make those changes. There
Yeah, so
is a
no
video on my
crying
channel.
about it being at midnight this time, guys. There
Right.
you go.
I did not put it at midnight again, so I don't want to hear it from any of you. It's 12 hours completely off. It's not quite, it's 2 o'clock, not 12 noon, but it's a completely different time of day. So and I've already done a video. It'll be up on all my social media in a little bit here. It'll be up on Kickstarter too. So everybody's been warned. There are only 5 or more copies. This will not happen again. 1,000 is going to be it. So we just do 1,500 copies, then it's not a limited edition anymore. And also my dog's not going to say no, yes twice. So this is the only extension we're going to get. So
Yeah, guys, the first group sold out in an hour, and that came out at midnight. So make sure you got your alarm set and be there waiting.
yes, we had, I think, 250 people watching live on the channel. So they went faster than I could have possibly anticipated. I had thought it was going to take like a week at least to sell 500 copies. I was
That was
prepared.
midnight on a work night too. This is gonna be Saturday during the afternoon, so it's gonna go quick. It's gonna go quick.
Yeah, no. So definitely do tune in. So
Yeah, you guys can see because of the second that it crosses a certain threshold in dollar value, I get to tell Chris. He gets to devise me a particle blade. It's gonna be
that's
amazing.
true. That's true.
Cannot wait.
Mike's gonna get a high matter sword, and I am going to not have a car payment. So please do come come check the books out. These are great. We're gonna have at least 8 now interior black and white illustrations in the book. It's gonna have illustrated end papers. The cover is already done. You can check that out on the Kickstarter. There's going to be some extra art in there as well. I revised the book. It's been cleaned up. It's sort of a second edition, and there's some new stories in there too. So
it's going to be pretty good, I'm thinking.
It's
So
pretty awesome.
Guys, we'll get back together to talk after Dune Part 2 comes out. I'm sure we'll be doing our spoiler free and our spoiler review like we did last time. And I can't wait to do it. I can't wait for the soundtrack to drop because I'm going to listen to that soundtrack probably before I see the movie, just like I did last time. Kind of use it as my inner chi music. That's what I need to kind of calm me down a little bit. Hans Zimmer. I know we differ on Hans Zimmer. I think he's
I
he's
just
the
don't think he's the
maestro.
greatest of all time. I think that's
No, he's
John
not John
Williams.
Williams, but I
Yeah,
think
no,
he's the John Williams of his age. I think his group.
he's great, but I still would have liked to have something I could have hummed along.
I got you. I got you.
It's still a little too esoteric for that, but it's grown on me. The sketchbook in particular is pretty good. So
All right, guys, thanks for watching, and we will talk at you soon. Let me know what
yeah,
you thought of the trailer and all that stuff down below. Talk to you there.
thanks for having me back, Mike.
You got it.